Okay, here we go with another installment of our ongoing forum versus the designer game of order and opportunity making of the post-Cold War world order, currently on the P500 list of GMT Games. So the turn order has gone around to the US again, and he has the hand of cards. For the US, we play the selected cards here, 3 economic cards. This causes a consequence, which in the case of the economic suit is the increase of polarization by 1, which we mark here on the US player mat. So what shall we do with these cards? Let's follow the forum first of all. So there was the idea that we should put down some reaction ability down there in the Middle East to really start the hunt for Bin Laden in earnest. We are talking about this world event down here. So let's turn the card and slide it down here to the Middle East. It goes in the second position, and as noted in previous videos, the card is tilted slightly to show that it's not active yet. We have to pass, which we will probably do soon, for it to be active. Another interesting option we have is to use the card to advance here on the economic development track, which we will do here. We grab a US economic influence and we drop it off all the way on the other side on the economic development track. With the last card here, my original suggestion was to place it or play it in the EU to equal the Chinese economic influence there. However, I realized when I thought about this move now that if we do this, then we will trigger both the Chinese and the Russian reaction abilities, which both react to economic actions. This would be quite a reaction, because I would put the Russians here on course to resolving Bronze Knight. They would probably challenge the EU economic influence there as the reaction, and the Chinese would have the option of increasing their economic influence here in the Balkans to pick up the nativism world event there. So we can't actually at this moment, we better not touch Europe at all. One thing we can do as the US, and this seems like a good idea, is to just simply put down the US card as a reaction ability here in Europe. This doesn't cause any reactions as such, but it allows the US to increase economic influence, which they could then at least maybe make use of here in the European Union to stop the Chinese from getting their opportunity there. The card itself is left slightly tilted still to show that it's not active until the US has passed. That said, this having been now the last command of the US turn, they will indeed move into the pass box, and so the reaction ability here will be then fully activated. Next up we have the EU, so remove the marker there and let's look into the EU hand. There are just single cards here of separate suits, so there's just one card that we can play, and I would suggest that we actually play the economic card here. So as with the US, we can't really actually do anything here in the in Europe, in order not to trigger a volley of reactions from the authoritarians. So a good move might be to just use the event option here, add resources according to your economic influence track. This refers to the status of the economic influence track here on the European Union player mat. The last number here on the right is 3. This is the number of resources that the EU gets by using this event option. So the EU jumps from 1 to 4 resources. And so this concludes the EU turn, and EU passes. We cannot activate this reaction ability here for the US since they have already passed as well. Next we move collectively into the planning segment. If you look at the US hand here, in the bottom row you can see a row of cards, and in this segment we can acquire one of these cards into the US discard pile. we've got quite a lot of options here. There are about 10 cards in the row here. I'd suggest we get the War on Terror card here. It's got the military suit, and it's got the event option to resolve world events, and then finally a useful reaction ability of adding military influence and contesting opposing info. So let's drop that into the US deck, and then finally we draw a hand of cards for the next round. Similarly, the development for similarly the planning for the EU. For China, the planning card could be the Belt and Road Initiative. We are expecting to resolve some world events in Europe, and this one's got the event option for it, so let's take that. And here's also a reaction ability that could be useful, so that's a good card for the Chinese. And finally, Russia could start building up their military presence, also with an eye on the Chechnya world event in Russia. So let's grab the Wagner Group. This also has a special event option through which Russians can earn 2 victory points if they manage to generate some military control first. So that's a good one to grab. So with the planning done, we can move into the discard and refill. We've partly done that already for the powers. So the next thing is to move on the round track to round 2. We pass through the order of play adjustment, and the order of play is adjusted according to the current resource levels shown here on the right hand side. So the EU will take the first position, Russia jumps to the second position, and the US and China keep the old order since there's a tie, and so the US third and China the last. And so with that we head into the next round.